Welcome back to Making Video Your Business, the podcast that aims to encourage you to think about the visual content that your business is putting out into the market. Today, I'm joined by my good friend and longtime client, Tim from Lovett Sales and Lettings. Tim.
Hey Chris, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, mate. Thank you so much for coming to see us.
You're welcome.
Give us a bit of background about Lovetts and where you've come from and where you are now.
We are a single branch agency in the market town of St Neots in Cambridgeshire. We've been in business since the early 80s. Mum and Dad started the business up under a different name.
It's called Keys then.
Keys, that's right, yeah, good memory. Keys Estate Agents. We went up to sort of 8 or 9 branches across sort of Cambridgeshire. And then when everything went to pot at the end of the 80s, managed to get out early and went back to a single branch. And have been a single branch because it's worked really well for us since then. We do sales and lettings. The majority of our revenue comes from lettings, but we've still been selling houses for almost 40 years now. So,
and you've got people who use you from abroad, who who you look after their properties, and you've got large numbers of properties in all sorts of demography across the town, right?
We do, from little studio flats to what we're seeing more and more of, actually 4 or 5 bed detached houses as people's sort of lifestyle changes and lifestyle decisions are becoming more flexible. People can go away for 6 months or 12 months or a couple of years. Let's go and live abroad for a couple of years, try that, or rent a house out. Whereas perhaps 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't quite as popular. What
do you think it is about St Neots that makes it so well situated, and why do you think people are gravitating towards it?
Well,
obviously cost affordability, you've mentioned
affordability, and the other thing you just mentioned is how well it's situated. So it's basically, you've got the A1, got the A14 and the A428, got the whole east-west thing across the country, north-south, and St Neots sits right on it. So it's really, really well positioned for people that need to go elsewhere in the country.
And commutability, I guess, for London.
40 minutes on the fast train in the morning.
Fantastic.
So, really quick into London.
So you're quick to London, you're quick to the Midlands, you're quick to the south.
Yeah, and get to the coast. Yeah.
What do you think about St Neots as a place for investment right now? You know, and what are you seeing in terms of investment? What is being built and what is being bought?
It depends on the stock. So if you look talking about the new developments, like I said about Wintringham, which are mainly family homes, there's not many 1 or 2 bed properties. They're mainly family units, brand new. I mean, they're not coming on the market at a particularly low price. You know, 4 bed detached house will set you back best part of £500,000. We're seeing quite a few overseas investors actually buying them without seeing them. We'll go and view them on the behalf. So investors from China, Taiwan, Macau. And we've taken on a number of those properties where they've bought them, completed, and then we've just taken on the management. And they've got it as a capital investment. But then you've also got the existing stock where the value lies really in our area. The 1 and 2 bedroom little houses or flats. Houses are preferred because they're freehold and you don't have to pay a service charge. But they offer really good value for money. So you could buy a 1 bedroom sort of terraced house for £160,000 in St Neots, rent it out now for, I mean, rents are going through the roof, probably £750, £800 a month, and generates a really good yield.
That leads quite nicely into visual content. So how are these foreign investors engaging with you, and what sort of content are they demanding when they're going to be making these sorts of purchases?
They want their properties marketed in the best possible light, of course, and part of the reason we've ramped up our marketing from the traditional photos on Rightmove and on your website. I think you're standing still if you're doing that nowadays. There's so much more to offer, and it's so easy to upload content. Use organisations like yourselves, but even do it yourself.
Yeah, we encourage people with that.
And we did that to start off with. The biggest barrier to video content, for example, that I see is just people's nervousness of getting in front of the camera. Yeah, and that's something that it was a barrier for us, for me, for years.
Did you struggle with that?
Not now, no.
No, but initially, did you struggle with that?
Yeah, I mean,
why do you think you struggled with it?
I guess it's that no one likes hearing their own voice. No one likes, or few people like seeing themselves on film.
Why look at me?
Not everybody doesn't like their own voice.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
But most people go, oh God, when they hear their voice back, or if they see themselves on
First
camera.
couple of times, yeah.
And I was much the same, to be honest. But I saw you came to one of our Property Mark Inspire courses.
group in London.
That's right.
Yeah.
You came to one of those and did a presentation to the group on video content. And I was already half in because I knew that it's what we wanted to do, and you sold it very well. But you just said that these are you just said these are the benefits. This is what is what it does.
Yeah.
And
it's I actually don't find it particularly difficult to encourage people to use video content now, but what is harder is to encourage people to think more broadly about their content, and also think about usage and return on investment. Making video content and any visual content, photography or even written content, needs to be more than just buy my stuff.
Yeah,
it needs to be more, more rounded.
People see through it.
Of course they do. Yeah, because I always equate it to thinking, if you go into a shop, and you're going out shopping and you want to buy yourself a new shirt or a new pair of trousers or whatever, you want to have a look around. You want to get to grips with some of the product. You've probably gone into a store because you've seen some of their stuff, but you might have seen a Nike logo at the Olympics. You might have seen, a watch logo at the Formula One, and they're sort of reinforcing some of their branding, but without actually trying to sell to you. And I think that's quite key. I think a lot of agents haven't particularly done that, even now, and a lot of them aren't doing it well. But where I think you're excelling in your marketing is you're looking at St Neots as a place, and you're trying to engage with the people who live there.
Yeah.
What do you think, I guess, is the best sort of content that you've been making recently? I mean, obviously, you're making tours and you're selling houses and you're renting houses and stuff like that, and that's clearly displayed by your foreign investment. But what other stuff have you been making, and why do you think it's beneficial?
I mean, tours are great, but to a certain extent, the housing market moves so fast that by the time you made a tour, a lot of the time, you might only be able to put it out once or twice or for a few days, and the property's sold. But but it's great, obviously, for to be able to attract vendors and for vendors to see what the offer is there. For us, in terms of what's been probably the most successful content that we've put out, has been, my favourite was probably the top 20 streets in St Neots that we did, because it was a series, so it got people to come back and watch again. So we look at the streets in our locality that had the highest value, average value, basically. And I don't know what I'm telling you, because you guys filmed it, but
it was great
for people that are listening.
For people that are listening, yeah, I know, but others won't.
But it's familiarity. People loved the fact that went, oh, is our street going to be on there, or I bet it's this street. I bet I know which one it is. And people sort of will come up to you in the supermarket when you did our road last week, and oh, great, yeah.
Was the one guy who got annoyed because you had forgotten to put out that week's street, and he messaged the office to say, when's the next one coming out, because you've not posted it.
You said you're doing them every other week or every week.
Yeah, where is it?
Yeah, and I was on holiday or something like that. But
you should probably think about doing a most affordable streets.
Yes, probably should do. Yeah, we should do. Yeah. But make it affordable rather than the cheapest streets. Yeah. There's getting the right terminology.
Affordable, yeah.
But the biggest thing that I've noticed is how many, you don't know who's watching, but I went to a school reunion, a 25 year sixth form reunion about 2 months ago, and no one asked me what I did, because they all knew, because they watched my videos on LinkedIn, and a few people went, I really like your videos, and a lot of them still live locally, so they have that interest.
Yeah.
But you would never think, oh, so-and-so you went to school with, they watch all your videos. You think, no, they wouldn't. No, they don't. But they do. They genuinely do. There's that interest. But in terms of, go back to your question, other things that we've done, area guides are really popular.
Yeah, they are popular.
And they're really helpful as well, because we do get a lot of people from outside the area moved to.
And well, the foreign investors would probably be interested in those as
well. And we did a series with yourselves, which was a longer piece that we put together, but was one of our favourites, where we worked with a number of community organisations, businesses, sports organisations, basically covered a number of different areas of, I guess, culture, leisure, life in St Neots, and interviewed people about the area, about their offer and what they do. People at the local museum, people at the local Plant Shop.
Yeah. The Plant Shop was great.
Yeah.
I love that film. The Plant Shop was great because the lady who runs it had such a
Personal
story. It was, it was fantastic. And what was amazing for me when we went to the museum, actually, was just such a random concoction of things. It's like a mammoth tusk.
Yes.
Coupled with all of the stuff you tend to sort of find in a town museum about their most favourite sons and daughters. But,
That's it.
it was a really random, because apparently St Neots, because it was flattish, was where mammoths used to roam in the Ice Age. So before the Ice Age. So, I mean, it is crazy. And it's those sorts of things, I think, that are bits of history that you don't know about a place that you live in and have lived in for a long time. Like I still tell people, because I used to work in government, and I know quite a lot about Grantham because it was one of the places I used to live in. We sort of talk about the fact that the first ever female police officer was from Grantham.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know that, and they go, oh, really? And then they start finding out a bit more. And it's interesting to people. I think if you're making content about your business, right, that is interesting to a point.
Mm-hmm.
But the key things are to be making content, I think, about what is interesting to your potential viewers, so that they then become interested in you.
Yeah. Hopefully, the idea is that it helps to build trust as well in yourself as an agent, because if you live locally and you want to put your property on the market, you've got a choice of, in St Neots, maybe 20 agents.
Yeah, same here.
Where do you, unless you have a particular in with an agent, someone that works there, or have used them before, unless you're there, you think, well, where do I start? And actually, if you see someone that's putting together content regularly that is interesting, trustworthy, knowledgeable, you think, actually, I'll pick up the phone to these guys because they seem genuine.
You wouldn't just randomly get a painter and decorator into your house. You'd go and research who that was, and you'd ask for recommendations and all those things. And it's the same with an estate agent, it's the same with an accountant, same with a firm of solicitors, and you'll go and research. And I think if you can put a positive face all the time out, then it will stand you in better stead and actually distinguish you from your competition.
Yeah.
Because if you look at, you were to Google estate agent, or letting agents in Neots, they're all much of a muchness until they get to you.
They are, yeah. That's right. And as an agent, people often ask, well, what's your USP, and service-wise, we don't really have a USP because they're all the same. We'll sell your house, we'll let your house
to the highest possible standard.
Exactly. We'll manage your property. All of the local agents do that, and they all try to do that as best they can. Where our USP is the knowledge that you have within the staff of the locality, of the local area, the nuances of being an estate agency, and that's something that's quite difficult to get across, I guess, on camera or on your website. But hopefully, by talking about other things other than straight property, you start to see that our staff or our team or myself, I'd like to think we know what we're talking about.
We've got more to add, but also crucially, your team have got decades of experience. Some of your directors and some of your team have been with you over 20 years, so they've got all of that knowledge, that sort of retained knowledge over that time period.
Yeah.
But I think it does do, and you mentioned it briefly, is it does build trust in your brand. Yeah. It builds trust in your team and in the fact that you know what you're about and what you're doing. So when you first started to think about visual content, then what were your barriers? Why did you sort of sit on the fence for a while?
I think there's probably a few things. I mentioned uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Uncomfortability in front of camera. Uncomfortability.
Yeah.
Cost.
Yeah.
Setting aside and planning time, really.
Yeah.
And I guess some of it was also not sure what the content would be that we put out. And
of course.
Actually, what would we talk about other than
yes, of course.
Property tours.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, you didn't have to think about that.
But no, we didn't have to think about that because when you guys came to town,
because we thought about it.
You thought about it, and you've been doing it for a long time with a lot of agents, and so you have a barrel load of ideas already.
That's sort of our USP. Yeah. Because the purpose of this podcast isn't to sell our services, but is to encourage people to think seriously about video content. But the best production companies, we're not alone in that. No. But the best production companies don't just turn up with cameras and go, "Cool, what we're shooting."
No.
They plan. They turn up with a strategy. They work with client to encourage them to think about broader content.
Yeah.
And when they get there, they drive the narrative. It's about when we started working together, it was about forging that symbiotic relationship where we work together. Yeah. To get the best possible out. But yeah, no, I get that, and those are the concerns that most people have.
But that driving the narrative is really important for me, because I did need support in terms of finding content ideas or creative ideas that we know that will work and that will help to have an engaged audience. And that was really important. That's what came across. I mean, if we could have picked up the phone to any videographers or filming company locally, and they come down, but they, like you say, they would turn up with the cameras and say, okay, what do you want to shoot?
Yeah, of course.
And whereas you guys, you specialise in property. I know you do lots of other things as well, but you do specialise in property, and with that, you're also buying your expertise and experience in content creation, I guess.
Sure.
So,
and the rest of them are all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. The rest of the guys are all right.
Yeah, they're all right. Actually,
they're all right. Yeah,
turn up all right.
So, what would your advice be then to an agent who either was just getting started, they've just got to a point in their business where they've got a bit of extra capital that they could put into some marketing budget or whatever? What would your advice be to get going, and what would your thoughts be about how they could dip their toe in effectively?
I don't even think it's having an extra bit of budget. I think it's even within your existing budget, look at what you're doing on advertising and marketing, seeing what works for you currently, because for us, we were spending, I think, £1,200 a month on newspapers.
Yeah.
Our local newspaper, which nobody picked up, and only half of them get delivered. So we're like, straight away, we don't need newspaper advertising anymore. And actually, by cutting those costs, we were able to say, right, we'll put this into video. And I don't feel like it was a negative replacement at all. It was very much looking at what was and wasn't working, and there was plenty of advertising marketing that we weren't really getting value for. And I know that even though it seems like a bigger expense putting money into video than flyers or things like that, I think the return is much bigger.
Yeah, I think,
but it's a slow burn.
You
have to be conscious of that.
I think any good marketing strategy is a reasonably slow burn.
Yeah,
I think the problem is that we are, at the moment, I've got to terms with. I don't like to necessarily mention it on the podcast, but I've just signed up to this website, Temu. Right, it's a bit like Shein, right? So you can get stuff from the Far East, but when you order stuff from there, you have to wait a bit, because it all gets shipped from overseas, and it's maybe 10 days, 12 days to get your stuff. In a current climate, when you're so used to Jeff Bezos delivering your stuff tomorrow,
that's a long time. 12 days.
10-12 days feels like a long time to wait for something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But actually, I'm quite enjoying it, because that used to be what would happen. When I used to work in business to business sales, people would say, "Oh, how long will it take for my furniture to be delivered or whatever?" And we were like,
6 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks, or 7 to 10 days, for a delivery, and people would accept that. Whereas now it's everything has to be so immediate. And so I think when it comes to marketing strategy, people think, "Oh, I'll throw 500 quid at that, and then tomorrow we'll have 1,000 orders."
Yeah.
And that isn't how the world works. And I think the key is the consistency, and I think that's what's shown across a lot of the clients that we've worked with. And if you look at some of it, take property. I mean, you did say we don't exclusively work in property, but we do specialise in it. If you look at the best agents in the UK right now, who I would count as the best creators of content, they create the same sort of content, same all the time. And estate and letting agents are no different to a lot of other people. They're always looking for that next big thing.
Yeah.
But if you look at The One Show, or Graham Norton, or EastEnders, or Coronation Street, they've had exactly the same formula for decades.
Yeah.
Graham Norton's intro graphics, his like pre-roll, show roll, hasn't been changed since the 90s, and old school television being dropped into water, and it looks old now. It looks old, but it's familiar.
Yeah.
And familiarity breeds trust, and trust breeds sales. And I think for me, it's that, and I think that's what you have developed, and you're continuing to develop now. It's that consistency and trust in your brand.
At the moment, we're coming into a stage in the property market where
Summer 23,
and there's a bit of instability in the market, a bit of uncertainty in the sales market.
Certainly around mortgages as well.
Yeah, and mortgages are sky high. And as a business owner of an estate agency, you think, or do you do with your marketing? To me now, it's the time to double down, and actually this is an opportunity for us to really stand out, because perhaps other agencies locally will go a bit quiet.
Yeah, they will
knuckle down because it's because of could be tough times ahead. But actually, this is an opportunity for you to really stand out as an agent.
Correct. Yeah. The best agents,
times and the good times.
The best agents do that. The best agents that we've worked with for years.
Yeah.
When the market has been poor, they've doubled down on the marketing. When the market's recovered, they are head and shoulders out front.
Yeah.
Because they're the first people that people think of, because other people dial it down and turn off the tap effectively.
Yeah.
And then they almost become invisible.
That's
and that's how I would describe it. You know, by not advertising, marketing, a business. People always separate sales and marketing.
Yes.
They always separate. Oh, we do sales and marketing. I'm like, it's just sales.
Yeah.
Sales and marketing are one and the same. Without marketing, there is no sales. And without doing positive marketing, you're not going to have that pipeline.
That's right.
But yeah, so what is your strategy, I guess, to get through the backside of 2023 and come out positively into 24?
I think it's you touched on it earlier about the best agents stay consistent and try and keep the same format. I think for us that's very much the case. We want to be consistent with our marketing and the content that we're putting out.
Is that your advice to other agents as well, just to hold fire?
I think so. It's difficult because I know that you think, well, the first thing you could easily cut is marketing, because it's going to be a crappy market anyway, so let's not spend so much on marketing. But actually you have to start planning for when everything recovers. You have to start doing that now,
because crucially there will still be fewer houses than people that need them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's still people moving house, and you still want to be top of the list when they think of who to pick up the phone.
Yeah, because the core reasons for moving still exist.
Yeah.
You know, those core 7 reasons for moving never change. No. It's only the ones, people who just fancy moving.
Yeah, looking into another areas of property that we might want to expand out into as well. Serviced accommodation is one that I think could be a bit of a boon. Going forward, depending on how the industry regulates it. For us, the future's quite bright. We're not an agent that needs or wants to expand into 3, 4, 5 different branches. We're one office, and it works really well for us. In terms of managing a big lettings portfolio, we don't need lots of branches. We have a core team that can service a lot of property.
And crucially, you've been through 2 or 3 recessions since the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been there, tried it, got the t-shirt, seen what works, seen what doesn't. So you've actually got that again.
Yeah.
Going back to the quality of your business and the longevity of your business, you've got that stability based on those years, 20, 30, 40 years of being in business.
And we have a few staff as well who have been through those. The same staff have been through those,
which gives gives your business that resilience, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. So just finally then, what would your top 3 tips be for anyone thinking about video content?
I would say, first of all, put nervousness or your shyness to one side in terms of getting in front of the camera. I was as nervous as the next person, but once you've done it 2 or 3 times, 4 or 5 times, it becomes so much easier. It starts to become quite fun, actually. I quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say, if there's trepidation around cost, I would say look at your other advertising and marketing and see what's effective and what's not, because video will definitely be effective. And the third one, don't hang about. Just don't wait for the market to change or things to improve or potentially become more stable. Just start doing things now, because if you don't start doing things now, you'll never get started.
Mate, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming to see us.
That's right.
And I wish you even more success going forward.
Likewise.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers.